We had data from the Washington State unemployment insurance wage records. We had that data matched with the transcript data from the community college system. So we were able to look at administrative records on the value of labor market credentials of community colleges. We had several major findings. I would say our first finding was that community college credentials in Washington State have very high labor market value. So we found that these credentials both increase the wages for students who earn them, but also increase the likelihood that the students will find a job. But there were also some nuances. We found that, I would say the major second finding that we had was that the length of a credential does matter. So unlike four-year universities, community colleges offer credentials of different length. An associate degree, for example, requires 2 years of full-time enrollment to complete, whereas a short-term certificate, a student could complete that in 1 semester or 2 semesters. And we find that it does matter what the length of the credential is that a student is completing. And we found that almost within any given field, earning an associate's degree increased the wages much, much higher than a long-term certificate or a short-term certificate. And this was true almost across the field of study. Both the length of credential and the field of study do matter. So for example, nursing is a high returns field, but earning a short-term credential in nursing does not increase wages in Washington State. Whereas if you were to earn an associate's degree in nursing, your wages would have increased by 40%. And that's huge. Your likelihood of employment would increase, but just the wages would increase by 40%. So both do matter. States now have the data. They can use the unemployment insurance data and transcript data to better understand the value of different types of credentials, and they should use that, make that information public, for example, like California does, to students so that students can use some of that information to make the decision. This finding really does matter and really does have policy implications, because a decade ago, there were not that many short-term certificates. Short-term certificates a decade ago constituted about 16% of all credentials. Now they constitute about a quarter of all credentials. It is very important that these short-term certificates lead ultimately to longer-term certificates, that the credits be counted towards those and that students are encouraged to pursue them. A lot of times states with the best intentions of allowing more and more students to reach the credentials and benefit from them, the additional funding for credentials is limited to credentials of shorter length. For example, credentials that have maximum of 1 year of full-time enrollment. That's not necessarily a problem by itself if short-term certificates or if any kind of credential in general is stackable, meaning that students can earn that credential on their way of earning an associate's degree. However, if we are substituting short-term credentials for longer-term credentials, this may have unintended consequences. Our findings suggest that if we really want students to benefit, we need to invest not just in more credentials, but also longer-term credentials, that we do need to make this important and longer-term investments in our students.